warm welcome to all of you to this exciting session on Unstoppable Lucknow, Startups Defining the Future. I'm Nilesh Kapoor and I'll be the moderator for this inspiring conversation with our eminent panelists today. Now Lucknow, we all know that Lucknow has always been known for the culture, the heritage, tehzeeb, nafasat, right? Yes? Alright, but today we are here to talk about something different, about a different kind of legacy being built, one that is powered by ambition, innovation and the unshakable spirit of entrepreneurship. So can we all put our hands together for our panelists? Thank you. Now, we'll start off with Prateek. Don't worry, I'll give you the time to speak. Right now, let me introduce all of you to the audience first. So, Mr. Prateek Rastogi, an alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad and the founder and CEO of Better Nutrition and Green Day. He is deeply committed to transforming India's food and agricultural landscape through biofortified nutrition. And of course, behind this FMCG revolution lies Green Day, a rural micro-entrepreneurship model that connects sustainable farming with modern markets using precision farming, then soil analytics, and of course, strategic partnerships. So, welcome to the session, Prateek.
Thank you, Nilesh.
Then we have next in line, Varun Mayank, the founder of Noxsense. Now, an alumnus of IIM Lucknow, and in the background in journalism from Amity University. His journey began in media with Trendsetters and Hindustan Times before he took the entrepreneurial leap in 2017 with Noxsense. Today, Noxsense is not just about news. It's an entire ecosystem. The ecosystem spanning content, subscriptions, and much, much more. So we look forward to hearing his insights on building with both content and community. Welcome. Welcome. Right. Moving on, we have right next to me Mr. Rohit Maglik, founder and CEO of EduGorilla, an NIT Surathkal alumnus and part of Stanford GSB's Seed Transformation Program. As already informed that he has a robust tech platform supporting 1600 plus exams and learning resources, as well as he has over 2 lakh learning centers on board. Prior to EduGorilla, he has worked with global giants like Oracle, Morgan Stanley and D.E. Shaw. Now, he holds 6 patents, has authored 12 books and has received over 50 plus awards. Welcome Rohit to this discussion.
Thank you.
And finally we have Mr. Syed Faiz Hassan, MD of Imperial Holdings. With a master's degree in marketing and sales from Amity, he balances entrepreneurship and investment seamlessly, growing his family's business in real estate and education while nurturing startups across India. With over 7 years of angel investment and leadership in 30 plus early stage startups, he has built a strong reputation for spotting high potential ventures and creating successful exits. We are excited to hear his perspective on the crucial role of funding in fueling innovation. Welcome, Faiz. Now, without further ado, let's start off and let's dive a little into your journeys. So, I would just request you to keep your responses probably of around 2.5 minutes, right? So, let's start with you, Prateek. The first question is, your work is actually at the intersection of food, nutrition and rural empowerment, right? So what inspired you to start the ventures, Better Nutrition and Green Day? What was that one point when you thought, this is something I really want to start?
Thank you, Nilesh. So, when after my post-graduation from IIM Ahmedabad, I was working as a consultant. I came back to Lucknow. I just wanted to start something. I researched multiple industries. One of them was agri-tech. Now, when I started studying agri-tech in detail, I realized that we are talking about certain problems which we have been talking about for the last 3 decades. So, agri-tech के अंदर में आज जो भी problems हैं वो 30 साल पहले भी वही problems थी. And I also saw that okay, many companies have come and tried to solve these things, but वो solve नहीं हो पा रही हैं. So there was a challenge that was posed to me, and I thought that this challenge is strong enough that it will challenge my intellect over the years, and I will be able to dedicate my entire career towards an important cause. And I wanted to create a business where I was not just creating a financial business or money making business, but I was also able to drive a deep impact on in the media dialogue where farmers की income बढ़ानी है, farmers की income दुगनी करनी है. But I was able to see that if the farmer doesn't create something which is in line with what the modern consumer needs, then then that's not a natural way of increasing the farmer's income. So what I thought was that let me try and create a mechanism, a supply chain, so that the farmers can not just create these commodities like wheat, rice, millets, but they can create something special which all of us urban consumers need. And today our important need is that of nutrition. India के जो nutrition index में ranking है, that is really one of the worst in the entire world today. We are 105th out of 127 countries on the global hunger index. So it really speaks volumes about our position, and we are the second largest agriculture producer in the world. So ये सब metrics थे, मैंने इनको देखा, मैंने realize किया कि मतलब problem statement बहुत ही clearly laid out था. थोड़ा और deep में research किया तो कुछ solutions भी laid out थे. But what I realized was that it required true entrepreneurship. It required some good people with resources to come into this space, and I thought that I could be one of those people who can solve for this problem. So these were the reasons why I started this journey.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pradeep. It was nice actually seeing you on Shark Tank India.
So,
Thank you. Moving over, Varun. Now, from where you started to where you are, right? How do you think Lucknow has had an influence on whatever you have been doing? In terms of, say, do you think the city, it gave you some specific edge, or it threw some unexpected or maybe different types of challenges with regard or with respect to the metros, which you would have thought of?
So basically, Lucknow being the capital city, always has an edge when it comes to growing a media company. We have a thriving ecosystem of about 100 plus news channels operating from Lucknow, and a lot of newspapers, magazines. Everybody's like the media. Lucknow is a media hub, especially because of UP maybe. But then Lucknow is a media hub. I won't say that Lucknow gave me an edge or Lucknow was there's no strategic advantage of being in Lucknow, because we operate in a media circle. Lucknow and the natives of Lucknow are always good at speaking English and writing English. Lucknow has very good schools. So Lucknow's upbringing helps in hiring people at a lower cost point when we compare the metropolitan city. And Lucknow also gives us an edge of staying near Delhi somehow and still able to not have that cost structure of operating from Delhi. I think Rohit Bhai will also agree with this. Being in Lucknow gives you that competitive advantage of when it comes to managing your capex and costing part. But then Lucknow kind of needs more startups, needs more initiatives like that, and we need to frequently meet and need to grow the ecosystem here, where the people can get inspired, have access to easy capital inflow, and can grow together.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Just would like to add 2 cents to that. I completely agree. In fact, Lucknow ecosystem has both pros and cons. So towards the pros side, so for example, I have been managing a team of 250 employees, and now we are building another office of 100 employees. So the benefit is you get really economical manpower. So for example, Uttar Pradesh has India's second lowest per capita GDP, and in the world index, India has one of the lowest per capita GDP. So if you are in an industry which is human intensive, yeah, Lucknow is probably one of the preferred choices. So yeah, so I would benefit from that. There are definitely cons to that. So everything is a trade-off. So, for example, if we talk about the investor community, about the startup ecosystem, yeah. So when I started, it was in the very nascent stage. In fact, quite a few policies in the government and everything has formulated along as we grew, right? So yeah, so the ecosystem was developing when we started, but yeah, there are quite a few advantages. So if you are into industry which requires women, then probably Lucknow is one of the best choices.
Thank you. Thanks, Varun, and thanks, Rohit. But I'll come back to you now. Okay. So, of course, we know that EduGorilla, it is actually operating at a massive scale, right? But what was that one point when you said, yeah, I think this is my first big break, and I think now things are there. What was that one time?
So that happened around 6 months back. So in 2022, we published 6 patents, and in May 2024, those patents were granted. And in July, Google approached us. Can they use our patent? So I was like, "Yeah, 15-20 lakh ki deal hogi." I forwarded to my sales team. Then within a month, Amazon approached me saying, "Here, we want to use the output of the system that we have formed here, and we want to pay you $300,000." I was like, "Wow, the Amazon Google आ रहा है, तो शायद मोटा पैसा होगा." So within 24 hours, I said कि मैं 3 million charge करूँगा, and they came back within 24 hours saying कि ठीक है, 1.2 million is what you can get right away. So I was operating at somewhere around 1.5 mil turnover, and in the last 6 months, that revenue and everything got spiked by like 5 or 6x. So everything turned around. So I had to change my whole ecosystem, right from the CAs to the, I had to hire quite a few department heads, many chief level positions, had to get new office constructed, had to buy a lot of real estate. So over the last 6 months, yeah, everything has changed. So for me.
Great. I think these are the type of milestones all of us would want, huh? The Amazons and the Googles of the world coming to our startups, huh? Okay, now, thanks a lot, Rohit. And now we move over to someone who actually looks at the startups with a different lens altogether. Right?
Yes, sir.
So, Faiz, as someone who has invested in 30 plus early stage startups and scaled multiple businesses, what qualities or patterns do you look when you are looking at a founder and a startup before you invest? And how do you balance that gut instinct of yours with the data?
I think it comes a lot when we have to analyze which deal we have to invest in, because when you ask me, when we go 10 years back, I think it was much easier then because there were less startups to look at, and there are now more replicated startups. So when we analyze right now, I think we analyze more towards the team, because people are coming up with similar ideas, and we have to analyze who's the captain of the ship, who has that thing in him which can take the ship from the waves and the storm and pass it and keep the crew and the travelers all safe. So I think that's the task of a founder, and more than that, we analyze the psyche of the founder, because I have invested with Varun also. I was, I think, one of the early investors with Noxense. So Varun and I go long back. We are school friends also, so I know Varun like that. So it was much easier for me to invest in Noxense. And coming from Lucknow, Noxense was, I think, developing at that time. So there were things in front of me. So it was really easy for me to analyze and invest in that startup. But if we talk about all the other startup that I have invested in, I have gone with my gut, because I think when you invest in startups, if you invest in 10 startups, 7 or 8 of them fail, and 2 or 3 gives you the exit. 1 returns you the capital, the next 2 provides you the profit. So I think the average IRR that any investor looks at, it is beating the traditional investments that you do, that is of 35%. So we target around more than 35%, around 50% to 65% IRR. And in our case, we have been able to achieve more than 120% of IRR. And that is because if we talk about the startup companies that we have invested in, I think majorly have already gave us the exit that we needed. If not the exit, they were able to return the capital that we have invested in. So one more thing comes that, okay, because startups are not profitable companies. They take cash to grow, and we have to give them the cash, realizing that this company is going to burn that money. It's not that this company will use these funds and become profitable. It's not going to happen. So how are they able to manage their finances is one of the very important point that totally comes from the psyche and the personality of the founder. If he is disciplined towards what he is doing, if he is out there, is hustling, he is fighting against the odds, I think that psyche is what we look at, and rest I think is the gut that we see, apart from all the technical analysis that every investor I think does. So that's I think something different that we try to look at.
Thank you, thank you. And I'm sure most of the people who are looking at getting their startups formed now, the students especially, I'm sure that could add some perspective in terms of what you need to do and get right before you are actually going ahead for raising funds, right? Okay, so that was the first session. Moving on to the next one. So that was more about your journeys. Now we're going to talk a little more about growth, some innovation, and the challenges, of course, across the journey that you've faced. So, Rohit, we'll start with you this time. Now, of course, EduGorilla, it has scaled impressively over the last few years. Now, what were some of those key strategies that have helped you grow this concept to the level that it is right now? And along the way, was there a particular challenge when actually that was something that really tested EduGorilla or you?
Yeah. So I started around 8-9 years back. So definitely there were well, 10 plus challenges that I faced, right? There were tipping points where I thought कि यार कल तो धंधा भी नहीं होगा, let me shut the business and start with the job again. So there were not, like if you are into startup, and most of you will be able to relate that if you are into business for 8 to 10 years, you will have at least 10 moments like that. So definitely I had such moments. So when I started, I was just a software engineer with no background in business, no understanding. I was not able to understand a P&L statement even. So when I started, so one of the big lessons I had was persistence. So back in 2022, when EdTech was in the boom, we raised funding, and then all of a sudden 2023, almost 90% of EdTech startups in India were crashed. And by 2024, almost 97-98% of the EdTech businesses were shut down, right? So, and our Eureka movement happened just 6 months back when Google, Microsoft, all these companies started approaching us. Now, if you are persistent and you are the last one in the show, right? If you are last one in the hall, probably you will get the whole cake. So the lesson that I learned over here is, irrespective if everyone is going down, just be there, and probably you will get the whole cake.
Thank you, thank you. That is actually true for any of the startups. Persistence, that is something that really pays off well. Thank you, Rohit. Pratik, now we move over to you. Now, see, your venture is actually sitting at a cusp or an intersection of food, farming, technology, right? So, how do you think that you have stayed ahead of the curve? Because these are the conventional things which are there in the industry. So, what did innovation look like when things didn't go as you had originally planned for?
So when I came to Agri-Tech in UP Lucknow, the idea about technology within agriculture was just digitization. So everything was getting on an app, everything was being turned into e-commerce. So everybody wanted to use a phone as a device to basically sell to the farmers. When we started studying the markets of Uttar Pradesh and we interacted with the farmers, we realized that, look, this is something that is not going to work here, and this is something the farmers don't even need. Farmers want inputs, but they don't really care whether it's coming on an app or it's coming from a shop. They're very happy to go and buy through a shop actually. So we realized that, working with the farmers, we realized, and also studying some of the comparative examples of the other states, we realized that some of the other nearby states, they're actually far ahead in terms of the Uttar Pradesh economy of agri-tech, in terms of the usage of some of the technology. So Punjab is almost like 10 years ahead of us in terms of the technology they use, and some of the western southern states are also far ahead. So we realized that you actually need to bring core agri-tech to the farmers of UP, and that itself will be a great space. So what we did was we started, talking to the global leaders within agri-tech who run, R&D institutes, who are the world's leaders, think tanks on research within agriculture. Now, one of these examples is an organization called CIMMYT, which is, it's the world's top leading organization on research in wheat and maize. And we learned from them that what are they thinking about 30 years ahead in terms of agri-tech, bringing core technologies within agriculture. And there we realized that they are talking about something very strong, very beautiful, that through agriculture, through crops, you can increase the nutrient density of crops, you can increase your zinc, iron, protein, calcium, provitamin A levels just through agriculture itself, through a seed change, through fortifying the soil, through fortifying the plant's environment, and that's an entire science. It is so deep a science that we had to learn it over 5 years, perfect it, and it is only now that we are being able to get some IP on it. We recently filed a patent on a particular process that we have mastered over 5 years. That was a clear, the clear differentiator I would say is that truly understanding what the market needed, not jumping into something that was, trendy or which could have helped us just create a business which at that time seemed investable or could have given us, growth, but then actually figuring what is the true need and what would, really make sense in the long-term perspective from a problem-solving point of view. So that was us.
Right, so I think that was primarily innovation rooted in the ground realities. Instead of, okay, everybody is creating an app, let's us also do the same. Thank you, Pratik. Now, Varun, what was your biggest learning about adapting to the market trends and user behavior? Because you have now a plethora of activities which are going on in Nonsense. So what are those things which you feel can actually help the audience take inputs from you?
Very difficult question to answer. See, user trends and behavior are evolving almost every week in the current scenario. When we started developing our mobile application, it was a read-only platform where we thought we'd put in subscription and entice users to avail certain deals and offers and subscribe to our content. Our basic idea was to charge users for content, not to give it out to them for free like it happens on all other platforms. And we had studied the behavior trends of the Guardian, the Washington Times, the NYTs of the world, and the challenges which we face. 1 year, 2 year of one way we had planned of how to go about it, but then COVID happened and things started changing, the market shut down. So you need to keep on evolving yourself. As an entrepreneur, I think the biggest thing is that you need to have an open ears and ears to the ground. You need to keep on changing. If you're rigid in your behavior that you have decided something and you're going to stick to that plan, it never works. But when it comes to user behavior, the biggest trend analyzing platform is Google. I think if we are just on the internet for an hour and not watching reels or shorts, we get to learn a lot of things which are happening in the ecosystem that we are in. Because we are mostly working in the advertising angle, so our solutions and as Nonsense, we are a B2B2C platform. So we are trying to bring a business online and give it out in front of the users to view that content and interact with that brand.
Right.
So it is important to educate the brand of what the user is looking out for. So recently a new, I won't name the brand, it's a 9 to 5 silver jewelry brand which has come to Lucknow. They have opened a new store in Gomti Nagar, Patrakarpura. It's a Delhi-based franchise. So when they were planning to open their outlet in Lucknow, the main idea was to attract young 16 to 21, 22 kind of an age group to buy 9 to 5 jewelry and wear it in their regular usage. But in Lucknow it's very rare. That's why we had to educate them that if you are targeting, you target more with 28 plus or 30 to 40 kind of an audience. That's it.
Thank you, Varun. Now, one question for you. Faiz, you work with so many founders, right? Different types of founders you work with, what patterns have you noticed in the successful, how do the successful startup founders handle setbacks or pivot? And I think you will have 1 minute to respond. We're running short of time.
I think as Rohit Bhai said, the founders here have said, the mindset is the key here, because the persistency, the will to never give up, to keep fighting the odds. I think no founder will be like that has faced a simple journey, a easy way. There's no way. I think you have to go improvise. Improvisation is really important, because the idea, like Varun also started the journey, he improvised with years. And I think there's no right product for the market. You have to just keep on learning, keep on innovating, and just keep on going and fighting, be in the race. So I think that's really, really important.
Thank you, Faiz. So it was really nice hearing all the candid reflections from all of you, which you've experienced in your journey, for the benefit of all the audience members as well. Now, one last question for each one of you, 15 seconds per person, right? One advice for the audience. Just one advice in 15 seconds at most. Your time starts now. Rohit, let's start with you. 15 seconds, the time is running.
I will stick to my main point. Be persistent. You will have failures, but if you are persistent, you will somehow reach the shore.
Perfect. Thank you. Moving on.
Travel, learn, educate yourself, find a mentor in the industry you want to work. And I think networking is really, really important. Sit down with the right set of people who can guide you in achieving your dreams.
Thank you, Faiz. Varun, over to you.
Solve a problem. Solve a problem.
Solve a problem. Wow.
Don't find a problem, but there should be a genuine problem which you're solving.
Wonderful. Thank you. Over to you, Prateek. Take us home.
Alright, so one of the best things that you can do to your startup is basically you yourself, the time that you can give. And for that it is extremely important that you are very healthy and fit during your entire journey. Your body is fit, your mind is fit, and you're able to devote that time. So do focus on that. It will be one of the biggest edge that you can get while working on your startup.
Thank you. Thanks, Prateek. Just stayed within the time. And now, of course, no discussion ends without the audience. So over to you. 2 questions at most we can take. From the audience, can somebody please hand over the mic to the gentleman there? Just the question, please, and which panel member would you like to address that to?
Hi, good evening to all. Myself Saurav Ranjan, alumnus of IIM Calcutta and I am Lucknow, and having 22 years of corporate exposure. My question is to Mr. Faiz. What is the one investment so far from Lucknow you regret of missing or had a FOMO, and why?
That's a good
This
one.
is one question. This is one question.
I have answer for this. I think that's egoism.
I think when I started my investment journey, it was early 2018. I was still graduating from my MBA. So I joined venture capitalist at that time. And the last deal that closed was BharatPe. And the investors who had invested in BharatPe got around 80x in 3 years. So I regret missing on that.
And a follow-up question to this. If you don't want to miss one, how do
Sorry,
I
but can we just keep it one? Maybe post the session you can meet up with them. But one more question from the audience. All right. Can we have the mic to the gentleman, please?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Amazing in terms of perspectives, what you get to the table. I see farming, I see agri-tech, I see ed-tech and skilling, and I also see media and communication. So my question is, you guys have done a phenomenal job in the private world. What is that we can do with the UP government in terms of working with UP Icon, UP Invest? Because we see UP as the largest testbed for AI solutions where you're able to efficiently run a state through governance, and we clearly see from the top with Maharaj signing as a digital state. So would love to draw some perspective from your end as to what SLMs or licensing models can be built in collaboration with PPP models with experts like you. Thank you so much. This is Pawan Raju, by the way.
So
Any one of you, Rohit?
So as I understood the question, what SLMs or LLMs can be built for the UP government, is it?
Was that the question, please? Can you clarify?
Yes, so the question was how is that the government can benefit from building SLMs which can be either licensed or rewarded in such a way that the private players can also benefit. Where private players are investing in the technology and the infrastructure, government is giving access to the clean data sets in agri, healthcare and farming. Let's say these three as priority sectors.
Right. So is it more towards the data set, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So in India, so I know server guys, I know the guys behind most of the LLMs, right? So in fact, I had a discussion with server guy last week, and to be very frank, in India for data, there are no copyrights. So they better scrap the website and use the data rather than having to go through the licensing model. So in India, that doesn't work out. So in fact, we do license the data as well to the big techs. And these concepts are there for a very, very, very selected countries. So for example, if there is a company based out of US, they will value the data licensing. But if it's based out of China, none of them value that. They will better scrap your website and use the data. So whether it is LLM or SLM, most of them SLMs are trickled down, are a baby of the LLM, right? So SLMs are the small language models. So that's the first part of the question, that data licensing Uttar Pradesh में या India में काम नहीं करता for the Indian LLMs or SLMs. The second part of the question was what are the use cases inside government for the SLMs? So UP government, as far as I know, as per my discussion with EY, that's the consultant for government for AI. So UP government has started quite a few initiatives to implement AI. So for example, Mahakumbh mein they had SLM, they have for in education fields as well, they have in healthcare. They do have a lot of use cases in almost all the departments. कितने level तक apply हुआ है that everyone is aware of. But yeah, government has thought about it. They have onboarded the consultants. But in a few years down the line, you will see some effect.
Thank you. Thank you to all the panel members as well as to the audience for hearing them out, and the panelists for the candid, the things that you have shared in terms of the journey you've had so far and the learnings that the audience can take from it. So thanks a lot. It was lovely discussion with you.